Khan on your screen. I hope you're doing well. Okay guys, so today I'm gonna be starting off a series of pediatric medicine. Okay, pediatrics, pediatric medicine. Okay, now the topic of discussion for today that I've chosen is bradyarrhythmia in peds. Okay, bradyarrhythmias. What will you do? The management and identification of a child who comes with clinically significant bradyarrhythmia. Okay. Now, clinically significant bradyarrhythmia occurs when the heart rate. Brady. What does Brady mean? Brady means low, right? Low. We also call it bradycardia. Okay. Tachy means high. Brady means low. So bradyarrhythmia would mean low rhythm. Okay. Low irregular rhythm. Because low rhythm is not regular, right? Okay. Now this occurs when the heart rate is slow and there are signs of hypoperfusion. Okay. Signs of hypoperfusion. Signs of hypoperfusion plus reduced heart rate. Now the reduced heart rate may depend upon what age you're dealing with. Okay. So for example, for infants the heart rate is relatively higher, the normal heart rate value, and for older children it's relatively lesser. Now what could be the possible etiology of bradyarrhythmia? Okay, let's talk about etiology. We just defined it, that it's the low irregular rhythm of the heart which is characterized by signs of hypoperfusion and reduced heart rate. Etiology would include the following. Okay, the etiology would include the following. Okay, a child may have hypoxia. Just a second. Child may have hypoxia. Hypoxia means low oxygen count, if low oxygen saturation. Okay, hypo means low and oxia means oxygen. Or hypovolemia. Hypovolemia can be due to dehydration, acute gastroenteritis, diarrhea, vomiting, stuff. Okay, or even blood loss in certain cases, in certain clotting factor diseases, etc. Hypovolemia can be a causative agent of hypoperfusion, right? Acidosis, if the H positive ions increase in blood, will also contribute to the bradycardia. Hypokalemia, if there is low potassium concentration, which we call hypokalemia. Then hypoglycemia. Okay, hypoglycemia. Toxins, certain toxins are also bradycardic. Cardiac tamponade, thrombosis. Now, which type of thrombosis am I talking about? Cardiac or pulmonary thrombosis. Okay, both of them can contribute to bradycardia. Then trauma can be a causative agent, and finally tension pneumothorax can also result in bradyarrhythmia. So this is a list of different etiologies that may result in bradyarrhythmias. Would recommend learning them. Next, let's look at the management plan of bradyarrhythmia. The list of etiology is important for clinical aspect as well as the exam point of view as well, especially for the short cases or long cases. Okay, now let's talk about the management. Of bradyarrhythmia. Now see, if I'll just try making a flow chart for the management of bradyarrhythmia. If you encounter Pete's bradycardia, okay, but in addition to the bradycardia, there is also poor perfusion. That definitely is the first step is to identify. So bradycardia meaning low heart rate and poor perfusion. Capillary refill time being more than 2 seconds, prolonged capillary refill time can indicate poor perfusion. Now, if you encounter a child with a combination of these two features, you'll treat that as bradyarrhythmia or bradycardia. Okay, that's the definition. Once you've identified it, the first step is always identification. In the management flow chart, it's always identification. Next step is going to be to treat the underlying cause. Okay, identify and treating the underlying cause. So treat the underlying cause would be the next. Now, how would you treat the underlying cause? The very first thing is to maintain airway and breathing. Okay, so airway maintenance, then assist breathing as necessary, depending on what sort of breathing pattern is the infant having. Okay, a need for ambu bagging or ventilation might be needed as well. Oxygen inhalation at different flow rates, 2 liters or 4 liters per minute is usually given initially. Attach a cardiac monitor to monitor the heart rate and identify rhythm. Okay, BP monitoring, vital monitoring, saturation, oxygen saturation in order to rule out hypoxia, right? Then next is to maintain IV line, maintain IV access. Usually single IV is done, but in severe cases double IV line may be maintained as well. So maintain either intraosseous or intravenous access, and a 12 lead ECG must be connected. Okay, now this is going to give you an idea about the bradycardia and the pattern. Now, after you've taken all of these measures to try to manage the underlying cause, you'll then monitor the child. Okay, monitor the child to see if the cardiac compromise continues or not. Okay, cardiac compromise would include how would you know about cardiac compromise? If the child has hypotension, shows features of shock, or altered mental status. These are the broad features you need to look into in the child. Okay, well, when you've monitored the airway, oxygen, you've taken care of a lot of these etiologies already. Like for example, attaching oxygen gets rid of the hypoxia, and providing IV access, and then attaching fluids. Attaching fluids can get rid of the hypovolemia. Okay, but you need to be careful about PCM children. because the children who are in PCF, they usually have fluid overload, so you need to be careful about them when administering fluids to them. The acidosis can also be gotten rid of by oxygenation. Potassium therapy can be given supportively. Okay, potassium resuscitation. Hypoglycemia, you need to monitor the blood glucose and provide necessary resuscitation by administering uh, glucose infusions. Okay, and tension pneumothorax, for that you need to perform a chest x-ray, and for the rest of them, specific treatment needs to be done. Now, coming to this cardiac compromise, if the cardiac compromise continues, what will you do? Okay guys, so if cardiac compromise continues, now if you've taken care of all of these management steps and cardiac compromise has been taken care of, it doesn't continue, then what do you do next? What would you do next? You'll still continue the support, okay, the support of airway, breathing, circulation. You'll still continue giving the oxygen, and you will then move on to getting expert consultation. And the reason for that is very simple. Because bradycardia may re-establish if the child is left unattended, or if you don't take care of it, the child may redevelop bradycardia. Okay, so for example, if it subsided for a while, doesn't really mean necessarily that it has completely been gotten rid of. Okay, so then it's better to get a cardiac review. If it still persists, then what would you do? What's your role as a pediatrician? You'll perform CPR if the heart rate falls below 60. Okay, 60 beats per minute. Start CPR. That's a step of advanced PALS protocol as well, right? Start CPR, NRP as well, neonatal resuscitation as well. So if heart rate falls below 60, that's the cutoff to start CPR. Okay, now you have to keep this in mind, that regardless of oxygenation and ventilation, you need to perform CPR. Okay, heart rate is the cutoff. Okay, if the patient has poor perfusion, so despite the ventilation and oxygenation, CPR needs to be started. Okay, despite ventilation and oxygenation that you have been providing. So in addition to that, CPR needs to be given. But what if the patient is still collapsing? What if bradycardia still continues? What will you do next? Well, you can move on to still continuing this until you get an expert opinion, expert consultation, and additionally, This is the stuff you can do. Now, in such situation where the bradycardia is not improving, usually this happens in ICU settings, epinephrine dose has to be administered by the dosage of 0.01 mg per kg. Atropine by the dosage of 0.02 mg per kg. You can consider intrathoracic pacing, okay, pacemaker, and again you can treat the underlying cause. That's the ultimate goal, right, of this entire therapy. Underlying cause, unless the underlying cause is treated, the condition might not improve. Now, for example, you've given the patient epinephrine, atropine, pacemaker has been placed as well, but the child still doesn't continue. If pulses arrest, like that's exactly what will happen next, right? The child was in persistent bradycardia and we were not able to help the child with the bradycardia. Then the next thing that might develop would be collapse, right? The pulseless arrest might occur. So if pulseless arrest develops, what will you treat that as? Then you treat it as cardiac arrest. And then you need to perform the standard protocol of cardiac arrest. Okay? The rescue breaths and the CPR and the cycle repeats. Alright guys? So in our next lecture, we'll talk in detail about the management of cardiac arrest. Okay? So yeah. See you.